Thanks for inviting us on this hike, Chiku.
Taking long walks in the forest is always refreshing.
The fresh air, the sound of birds chirping, it's all so peaceful.
Is something wrong, Chiku?
Someone has littered the path. This is bad. What if some animal were to accidentally eat some plastic or step on the glass bottle? The animal could get hurt.
We should clean this mess right away.
Yes, I'm sure I saw 2 waste bins on the way here.
First, we'll wear these gloves before touching the waste. Next, we'll put the waste into this bag and carry them to the bins.
Well, let's take off the gloves and go to the bins.
Let's go.
Oh, which bin do we put the waste in?
Look, there's a notice.
What? What is the notice about?
The notice seems to be about the bins. Let's read it and find out more, Jax.
What is the notice trying to tell us about these bins?
You know, if we read the notice and figure out its central theme, we can find the answers to both of your questions.
Huh? Which central team?
Not a team, Jax. I said theme. The central theme is the main idea that
I think, as Jane suggested, we should read the entire notice from start to finish. Only then will we understand what to do.
That's right.
But how do we find the central theme? Is it at the center of the notice?
No, Chiku. This is how you find it. We have to start at the very beginning and read the headings carefully. And as we read, let's look for ideas that are repeated in the text. After each paragraph, we should stop and find the important points in each paragraph. Using all these pointers.
Got it, Jane. Now, let's find the central theme of this notice.
First, let's note down the title of the text.
This is the first paragraph's heading. This heading is telling us that there are 2 kinds of waste bins, wet and dry.
We still don't know on what basis to separate waste. Come on, let's read on to find out. There are 2 kinds of waste bins for 2 kinds of waste. Okay, the green one is known as the wet waste bin. The blue one is known as the dry waste bin. These are for the wet and dry waste respectively. It's important to put the dry waste and the wet waste in the right bins. Aha! This paragraph tells us that the green bin is for wet waste and the blue bin...
This paragraph talks a lot about the 2 types of waste bins.
Well, that's right, Chiku. This is the important point of this paragraph.
Okay. We still don't know how to separate the wet waste from dry waste. So let's read the next paragraph.
First, let's read the heading.
Separate the waste.
The heading is telling us to separate the waste.
Let's continue reading the second paragraph to find out how. There are two kinds of waste: dry waste and wet waste. Dry waste includes paper, plastic, glass, and metals. Wet waste includes leftover food and vegetable or fruit peels. Separating the waste in this manner makes it easier to recycle or reuse it, which is good for the environment. So make sure to put the wet waste and dry waste in the right bins.
This paragraph explains how to separate the waste as wet waste and dry waste.
That is the important point in this paragraph.
This paragraph has another important point. It explains why we have to separate the waste. Separating the waste makes it easier to recycle or reuse it.
Great job on finding that important point, Chiku. Now we can find the repeating ideas by comparing both the paragraphs.
Both these sentences are telling us to put the waste in the right bin.
So this is the repeating idea. We found the repeating idea and the important points. Now we can use them to find the central theme. The important point from the first paragraph is there are two types of bins, wet and dry.
The important point from the second paragraph is separate waste into two kinds, wet and dry.
Another important point from the second paragraph is separating the waste makes it easier to recycle or reuse it.
The repeating idea in both these paragraphs is to throw the waste in the right bin.
So the central theme of this notice is
separate the waste as wet or dry and put it in the right bin to make it easier to recycle or reuse the waste.
Wow! This notice has so many paragraphs and sentences, but its central theme is a single sentence.
You took the words right out of my mouth, Jax. The central theme of a text can usually be summarized in a single sentence. This is why finding the central theme is so useful. It helps us understand a text better by telling us what its main point is.
We learned that there are two kinds of waste, wet and dry.
Also, the wet and dry waste has to be separated and put in the right bin.
This will make it easier to reuse or recycle the waste later on. Let's just do that.
Oh, wait! We have to wear gloves before we touch the waste. The banana peel is wet waste, so it goes in this green-colored wet waste bin.
The plastic bottle is dry waste, so it goes in the blue-colored dry waste bin.
The glass bottle is also dry waste.
Thank you so much, Jax and Jane. You helped clean the forest. Now animals won't get hurt because of the waste.
Always glad to help, Chiku.
And always ready to learn and do things the right way.
Thanks for showing me how to find the central theme, Jane. I'll make it a practice to find the central theme of any text I read, so I can understand it better.
Me too!
Now, let's take off these gloves and go back to hiking in this beautiful forest.